for listening to My Conscious Dad. I'm your host, Jazmine Urbina, here in studio with my dad, Alex Urbina, right here on your hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS. So first, I want to start us off just with a little introduction to my dad. He's a transformational life coach of 20 years, specializing in teen and family training. He's also a radio personality and author, currently working on his second book titled The Conscious Dad. But most importantly, he's my dad.
Oh, how sweet. You know, I love you.
I love you too.
You are so amazing. I'm so proud of you and excited for your growth and getting out of your comfort zone. This is cool. I'm taking in the moment.
Cool, thank you. So we decided to do the show because we wanted to invite families to listen in on our relationship as we grow and reinvent ourselves on and off the air. So thank you for being a part of this and your willingness to share your experiences, failures, accomplishments.
Absolutely. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, who am I to say that, you know, my experiences is important or valuable? I just feel that my journey and the failures and the things that I, you know, had to face and overcome were so big to me. They were so life-altering that I feel that most people could benefit from it. I think that sharing that and, you know, especially in today's world where we have technology to kind of chronicle ourselves, I think there's nothing better than living your life, being willing to share your journey and your breakthroughs, and that's what we're doing here today. Just kind of letting people look in and see us inside of our relationship, and just kind of taking ourselves to the next level.
Yeah, I think it might be a little awkward sometimes because we are going to be sharing things, you know, calling ourselves out. You know, this is what I messed up on, and, you know, even apologizing to each other or, you know, anybody listening, that we're not just going to be sharing our successes and why our relationship works so much. We're going to be remembering and calling each other out on the things that we may have made mistakes on.
Absolutely, but I think that's the goodies is you know, putting our ego aside and being willing to be honest and saying, hey, I made mistakes. And you know, being the conscious dad or being conscious in general isn't about being perfect. It's about being aware. And I think
that's hard. I think that's hard to kind of accept and be honest with yourself, to realize that you're not the person that you want to be, but you ignore all of those bad faults or traits or habits that you do.
But it's not hard like that's the truth. It might be challenging, but if you're willing to muster up some courage and tell your ego to go take a nap while you allow your authentic self to come out, it's just what it is. It's just you being authentic and honest and sharing. And it really takes some thick skin for you to not care about what people think about you. And I think that's, you know, I think people appreciate that. Just being honest and open and being willing to just say, hey, yeah, I made mistakes, or hey, these are my mistakes. And being willing to share that. I think people can learn from that. I know I've learned from my mentors when they were authentically and genuinely honest and were willing to share that. In fact, I appreciated that. I appreciated that kind of honesty.
All right, well, before we get started on the conscious dad, let's talk a little bit about the unconscious dad and who you were before your awakening. And maybe this is something that other dads who are tuned in can identify with, or even kids and teens who recognize these habits in their dads.
You know, I think the great starting point is just, you know, my childhood. I grew up believing I was just average and ordinary. You know, there was nothing extraordinary about my life. Like, you know, I lived in the San Fernando Valley, went to, you know, just a normal school, normal friends. You know, there's nothing special. So I think subconsciously I thought that I was just average. And I think I created some beliefs that, you know, there are some special, unique people in the world, and only those special and powerful and gifted people create success. And at that moment, I think I realized and decided I'm not one of them, because I looked around and didn't see anything special about myself. It wasn't until the age of 23 when I got into a transformational training and I was able to see myself and really recognize the spirit inside of me I was moved to tears when I experienced that for the first time. I was in awe of kind of peeling away the ego and peeling away the facade that I was playing, peeling away all the fears and doubts. And I got to experience my spirit authentically for the first time. And I was crying. I remember crying that weekend because I saw something so beautiful. In that moment, I'm telling you, instantly, in that moment, I realized that I am magnificent. And I'm a powerful, loving, compassionate, caring man. And from that moment forward, I decided that I wanted to continue to go down that journey. And that's where we're at now is, the conscious dad is just a continuous journey. I'm nothing special than anyone else. I'm just courageous enough to be willing to self-evaluate myself all day long, every day, all day, and just checking in. And I think that's what conscious means, is somebody that's really aware, has a heightened awareness, and looking at themselves and evaluating and saying, hey, was that the right thing to do? And if it wasn't, then go make it right. And it's just constantly checking in and looking and making course corrections and evolving to the next level.
I like how you said courageous, because like I said earlier, it's really challenging to stop and take a second and look at yourself and be honest, because we want to ignore all those things about us that we don't like. For instance, I'm really stubborn, but I hate when people point it out. I also hate when I see myself doing it. But at the same time, I can't just ignore it. I have to be brave enough to accept it, address it and move on. Every single moment, every single time I find myself being stubborn.
This was cool about what you just said. As you hear yourself say that, I can see your eyes watering up. It's because your spirit is reminding you that this is the next breakthrough for you. And this is what's cool about, the one-on-one coaching sessions I have with my clients. When I ask them questions, I'm asking them questions that they don't normally ask themselves.
Because we don't want to.
That's right, because you've been avoiding. And there's this saying that we have in the transformational arena, and the saying, it goes like this. It says, what are you pretending not to know about yourself? And I think that's, rings true with most people, is that we're living a facade, but we're unconsciously living that facade. We don't realize we are. We don't realize that we're playing games and we're ignoring some things that we're doing. Like, here's an example. If you're raising kids and you're doing things in your life that's out of integrity, if you're abusing yourself, maybe with drugs or alcohol, or even with food or overeating, or you're taking shortcuts, or you're cheating people, you're doing things that you shouldn't be doing. Well, your little ones are watching that, and in theory, you're doing that. You should not be doing it because you're the example, but you do it anyways. Well, in essence, what you're doing is you're pretending not to know you're doing it. So you're playing this unconscious game that if I don't really address it or don't look at it or don't ask myself anything about it, then I don't have to deal with it.
Almost like it doesn't exist.
Exactly. Well, it doesn't, because you're telling yourself this doesn't exist, and you keep focusing on other things.
But it only doesn't exist to you. So
right.
Your kids, your little ones, are seeing you like this.
That's right.
They see you doing this, and it exists to them. It's real for them. Just because you're ignoring it doesn't mean it's not happening.
Right. And then your kids, when they're seeing that, you're saying one thing and then you're doing something else. They're coming up to their own conclusion and creating their own beliefs that, my mom's a hypocrite, my dad's a liar. And so when they start creating those beliefs, and then all of a sudden when they're 15 or 16 years old and you're telling them to do something, or you're asking them to do something, and then they rebel, or they're telling you no, or they're defiant, you're sitting there wondering, what's wrong with my kid? Why isn't my kid listening? Well, they're not listening because the path that you chose to walk, unconsciously ignoring your own growth, they're watching you and they're seeing that, and they're creating their own stories and beliefs about who you are.
Right. I kind of just want to touch up too. I think we're talking a lot about the conscious dad, and we haven't really specified really what we think it means. So I'm going to go ahead and share mine, and maybe you can share
Absolutely.
what it means to you. Okay, great. So for me, a conscious dad is just someone who is there for me, not physically. Just because you're there doesn't mean you're supporting me. And that's really what I need, especially as a young girl and growing up as a young teenager, was just to have somebody who was going to support me, cheer me on, be on my team. Because at the end of the day, you could be there, but not really be there. Does that make sense? And that's not serving me either. It's almost like I don't know if this makes sense, but I would rather not have a dad than have a dad who's not really there.
Yeah, what you're talking about is dads that are checked out. And checked out meaning they might be the analytical style personality, so they're in their head a lot. They're thinking about bills or thinking about what their next project is. You know, you just tune out because you're not present in the moment. And what kids intuitively want is they want their parents to be present. They want them to be here now in this moment. They want their parents to be interested in what they're doing. You know, I have a client that, you know, he tells me that what's more important to him than anything in the world is to be able to show his love for his daughter. And so a lot of the homework that I give him is you get to block out 45 minutes to an hour a night that you're just, you tune the whole world out and you make her your world. And you be interested in whatever she's interested in. What is she interested in? Well, she loves Legos. Great. You get on the floor, down on the floor and lay with her and you spread out the Legos and you dive into her world. That's what she's yearning from you. And I think that that's important, you know, is to put all your own selfish stuff aside and dive into the world of your kids and and learn how to be present and in the moment, because you just said that's what you were looking for. And I think inherently all kids want their parents to be present in the moment and right there with them, interested in them. Hey, what'd you do today? And what do you think about this? You have to learn how to be inquisitive, be interested in them, ask them questions, and really kind of create a deep, meaningful relationship with them.
So then what does the conscious dad look like to you? The
conscious dad to me is a father that makes a commitment that they're going to take 100% responsibility for the growth of their kids. Not just 50% or not just 100% when they think that they should, 100% all the time, meaning, you know, whatever behavior pattern or whatever characteristic or style that's showing up in my son or daughter that I don't like or I don't think that's beneficial for them, I get to look at myself and say, how did I cause that? How did I co-create that with them? And then take 100% accountability for who am I being that's happening, or who am I not being that you know that there's a course correction, and then being proactive in figuring out what do I need to do or who do I need to be to hook their heart, open up some possibilities for them to see a different way, so that they start making those kinds of choices and creating different results. But in a nutshell, it's I'm responsible for my kids' growth. I'm at the center, I'm the cause, I'm the source of it, rather than when they turn 16 and 17 and they're talking back, now me being the victim and saying, well, my daughter's difficult. Well, she doesn't want to do this. Now I'm being victimized rather than taking 100% responsibility for looking at how to cause a shift in that.
And we kind of always talk about that too, is being creative and reinventing new ways. So if I'm, a teenage daughter and I'm yelling at you or we're fighting, you have to now, as the parent, say, okay, now this parenting style is not working. Now what? So you're taking different. You have to be. It's almost like you have to just trick us or be manipulative a little bit, because you have to figure out what's going to work for us.
Right. So let's take the scenario. So you're mad at me. You're arguing. You're yelling. Instead of being defensive and being in reaction and then yelling back, or because that's an unconscious act. Instead of going to that place, I get to stop, check in with myself, and from the responsible version is, okay, Alex, who do you need to be right now to get her to soften, to take a deep breath? So in that moment, you're heated, you're going off on me. In that moment, I need to shift into being vulnerable, because I know vulnerability is going to hook your heart. It's going to get you to just.
All of a sudden I'm not going to be yelling at you when you're compassionate.
How can you? And I'm being vulnerable and I'm soft and I'm gentle. So as you're heated like that, I need to be the opposite. And that can only come from a higher level of consciousness. So as that's happening, all of a sudden, okay, sweetie, look, I love you. You're right. If that's how you see it, I can see how you see it like that. I'm so sorry. And it might mean that I have to apologize. And how many people don't like to apologize, especially when they don't think it's their fault? So it takes a conscious person to say, if that's how you feel and that's how you see it, I'm sorry. That wasn't my intention. But I love you more than anything in the world, and I know we can get past this. Now, as I start to be more vulnerable, and more sensitive and more calm and loving and compassionate towards you, guess what happens on your end?
I don't know. I have to. I mean, I don't really react. I just
you can't. It's
Yeah.
like I'm hooking your heart, and so when I hook your heart, you now go from a level 7 to a 5 and a 4, and you're probably yeah, but right, and you're doing that, and then you go to a 3, and then if I can calm you down and bring you down, but that can only happen if I'm consciously aware of who I need to be or where I need to shift to get you to bring you back down.
Right.
And once I get you to that calm place, now I can sit and say, look, we can work this out. Let's have a decent conversation about it. Or I might even say, look, you're obviously heated right now. Let's take a time out. Let's talk about it tomorrow. But I'm really going to think about some of the things that you said. And you know what? Maybe I'm not the best at it. Maybe I don't know how to communicate effectively. And I'm going to take a look at that. Now, aren't you dying to hear that from your parents?
Of course.
Right? Isn't every kid dying to hear their mom or dad take responsibility for the relationship and the family and the way everything's are going, rather than saying, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you getting good grades? Or, why are you doing that? Like, you're better than that. Because all that's doing is putting guilt on you, and it's kind of reaffirming some of your own self-limiting beliefs.
Yeah, it takes a lot. I think I appreciate you and even my mom as parents taking responsibility for the way that I came out, even though I still take responsibility for myself. I appreciate that you guys will stop and take a minute and say, okay, this is what my kid needs because this is how I raised them. You're taking responsibility for your actions that led to me being this way.
Yeah, I made a commitment a long time ago that I get to be the example for you. But being the example wasn't just me living my life with higher standards or living my life with integrity. It also means I get to figure out how to reinvent myself to be able to draw out your greatness. Now, what audacity do I have to say that I'm powerful enough to figure out how to draw out your greatness? Well, it's not very hard. The way you draw out greatness from people is you ask them questions. Because as human beings, we don't usually ask ourselves questions, right? Because we're not self-aware. But if you're self-aware and you're conscious, you've already started that programming, asking yourself questions. So if you're unconscious and you're 7, 8 years old or 4 or 5 years old, my job is to ask you open-ended questions. Hey, sweetie, what'd you think about what you said last night? Or, let's say you got in trouble at school. It's like, did you think that was a wise decision? Well, no. Well, why not? But instead of being mad or angry at you, I'm just kind of being neutral, asking questions to help you make sense of the choice you make. Now, if I can ask questions to you and you out of your own mouth say, you know what, that probably wasn't the best decision, huh, Dad? Now, if I can do that, inside I'm like, yeah, that's it. But if I tell you that you didn't make the right decision, that's only my opinion. If I can get you to say it, guess what?
I have to realize it myself.
That's right. If I can get you to say it, it's your truth. And that's where you have the breakthrough.
Exactly. Stay tuned for more of My Conscious Dad right here on your hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS.